I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. It was the 22nd. Guess we have a roll call.
Neiman?
Here.
Underwood?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Haslam?
Here.
Gilman?
Here. They're all here. Okay, we have the agenda in front of you. A couple of blue sheet items to be added to the end of the agenda, J, K, L, and M. They are under your blue sheets. The purchase of 3 GMC trucks, disposal of equipment, purchase, truck lift, and finally a resolution for grant funding to Eagle for Bluff Road.
Motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the blue sheet on.
Support.
Alan and was it Peter?
Mhm.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. Is there anyone with a conflict of interest on any of the items? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item, which is first public comment. Do we have anybody in the first of all, do we have anybody in the audience who'd like to say anything at this time? Seeing none, we don't have to read the public comment sheet. We'll move to our first action items, the appointments. We have Mike.
Skirsky.
Yep, Mike Skirsky, who is going to speak on behalf of the Mission Hills Homeowners Association.
Yeah, unfortunately, Dan can't make this, so I mean, I'm a stand-in, I guess, for tonight.
His attendance has been exemplary up till now. I mean, better than any of them. Yeah, right?
So, yeah, Mike Skirsky, 14696 Mallard Drive. What I really want, I've got a couple things to really talk about on Bluff, just to kind of refresh and bring everybody up to date on a few other things that are going on. The township is looking at funding, as Isaiah talked about last month. Joe Roth, the owner of this, one of the largest section of the South. If you're familiar with that area, there was a pond there. She's improved the drainage from that pond. It was the drain tile was really plugged up and a little bit crushed, so that was torn out. New one was put in, so that's draining a lot faster. And now it's draining into the obviously into the right-of-way ditch, which doesn't run real fast. But in addition, the next landowner actually is the HOA. We own 25 feet there, and then to the south of that, that owner has had a contract now for shoreline work to be done. Some of that will be inside the closed area. Some of that's going to be on the area that is still open, but you know they own 250 feet, and they're going to be doing that whole thing. So that's more money being spent for preservation of that area. We had contacted Senator Peters' office to see where the Storm Act is, and the FEMA regional office, which is in Chicago. They basically, if you listen to what Peter said at his at the event down there in September, that's being pushed to the state. So the state of Michigan is going to be administering the Storm Act funding, but in contact with our local reps from the state of Michigan doesn't have their guidelines or their application process in place yet, and they don't expect that to be up and running until basically the earliest to be late first quarter of 23. So any kind of funding from that source won't even be available for application until basically the second quarter. So that's kind of where we stand on funding. I think that kind of goes back to the idea of the certification, since the certification is going to limit options on funding. It's also going to limit options on what you can do, because that's part of the what at least from what we understand that classification is. We haven't heard anything on our request list of exactly what that means as it relates to state funding there. But the other thing is, if you've noticed, one of the things that we keep talking about is this third access into the peninsula, the north-south route. Unfortunately, about a week ago, we had a death of a cyclist on the peninsula, basically coming down 37. And one of the things that we've had a group of individuals that are working with the peninsula, the non-motorized group, which one of the members spoke last month. They're trying to figure out routings that would be used to take traffic, I'll call it slow traffic, the bikes, the walkers away from those heavy traffic areas, which is basically the Peninsula Drive and M37. And the route that they prefer is the continuation of East Shore that goes up through Bluff and then ties in basically to up to I think it's Seven Hills. So that is something that we also really want to understand and really be cognizant of, is that the safety of our citizens and the safety of a lot of tourists depend on, a safe arrangement that we can make on the roads, and we do need that. That is the preferred. That has also been a state scenic drive, which is now basically unavailable to anyone. And last month, our sheriff's deputy did a report on where he's been spending his time, and basically most of his tickets are being written on Peninsula Drive, which is another one where people think that they can ride their bikes and walk, etc., safely. If you've driven it, it's a little bit windy, there's a lot of blind spots, and it's not really something that you would use for slow moving traffic and then bike traffic itself. So I think we need to be cognizant of looking at really why we need that third route. It also comes back to the September meeting of the small work group that basically looked at the situation, and I know a couple of commissioners were on it with the township and a couple of landowners. And basically the recommendations were to basically put together a plan to stop deterioration of that shoreline. We've heard instead from the staff, the solution would be decertification. That seems to be pretty much contrary to what was intended from that meeting, which was basically, let's look at what we can do to stabilize that area. And so that leads to no further decay of those two scarps, and then the areas now that are in between it. The numbers that were talked about, I think by staff, of about $600,000 for turnarounds, etc., is a pretty hefty sum. And if you look at kind of money that is being spent on the shorelines, you can do a lot with that. I mean, we have access now to the shore, and with the water receding, you can get heavy equipment down there and put in tow stones, which is the first thing you need to do on any kind of preservation system. You can get access to that pretty simple. We have that owner, Joe Roth, who would be willing to let that be used. So anything that we be done would be much cheaper, much easier, and much faster to do. I think one of the other things that we want to look at, and I've been talking to the state DOT and also a couple of federal organizations, is there's a kind of a new use, single road, single lane highway system in areas that are basically of risk or of certain type of activity. What it is, it's a single lane with a couple turnovers or turnouts that you basically look and basically pull aside if you have two-way traffic. There's always somewhere to do that, but it opens it up to pedestrians, it opens it up to bicyclists, and it opens up to auto traffic, and that's the way that they're designed. And there should be, according to the sources at the DOT, there should be federal monies available for putting in a highway or a roadway similar to that. You could also put in a solar driven light signal system, the ones like you do for when you're doing maintenance work on some of your bridges, et cetera, keep traffic flow control. You have north traffic at one point, and you have south traffic at another point, and you give it time to tune it that way. I think that's part of what we want to look at, but I think one of the general things we're talking about that I want to talk about, I think, and you should probably start thinking about, is that instead of figuring out, instead of putting it off into kind of a nothing thing, why don't we start thinking out what can we do and how can we use it? And if we need to minimize we want to minimize the expense of doing it, we want to maximize its utilization, and maybe some of these out of the box solutions are something that would be more usable and more economically favorable for the city, I should say the county and the township. So, right now we're in a really nice, good spot that we haven't got any further damage. If you look at I have land to the south of that. If you look at the winds, you have we used to call them a beach stealing wind from the northeast and a beach builder from the southeast. And we've been getting a lot of southeast. So we've been building at my beach, which 2 years ago was up to the seawall, and now I've got like 50 feet. So the water system has changed significantly from where it
About
was.
every
when
7
happened.
years, it
It's
changes.
a 14 year. If you go up to
14 years,
the
yeah, that's what
if you go up to the White House, you see 150
Yeah.
years of this sine wave.
Yeah.
And
It's interesting
it-
stuff.
it just stays within that band. It doesn't go up. It doesn't really go down. It's a pretty consistent band. So I think we've got an opportunity in the next year or two to really go off and start doing something.
Well, more so now than when we first started talking about it, probably. I just want to walk back through something. You've been at the meetings, you've been to, so what was the recommendation? I mean, 'cause he just said that the recommendation was to work on the toe, is that what you're?
Well, it was basically to stabilize basically.
Which is essentially work
Work
on
on the
something
toe
that's
is
down
the
there.
first thing. Well, you can work on the toe. You can also do.
I thought I had heard differently, that's why.
The discussion was, if I recall now, is that we were talking about what are the options that we have that we could take the road, put it into a, if we decertified it, are there things that we could do to keep it from further erosion? Because stopping the bank from eroding was less of a problem than if we're going to build a road on top of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But then we run into the problem of, we've subsequently learned, that's really not our area. Does that make sense? The bank really isn't our,
Right, it's out, okay,
so.
and this is where we had the.
Yeah, this is-
That's
if
something
you
we
look at
learned
the
that.
maps.
So,
The area of I'll call it the height, the cliff,
right,
goes in and out of the road right away,
so,
for that 1,200 feet. So some of it's yours, some of it's private individuals. But whatever's done,
And so our problem has been, I guess, throughout the history of this, is it's hard for us to step outside of what we are responsible for and then use taxpayer dollars.
Right.
and whatnot.
but if you look at the two stars.
the thought was trying to stop
Right.
it from eroding.
And I'm of that, I mean, you can,
Yeah.
but can we? And that's really what it comes down. Legally, can we? I mean, Brad, what, again, and maybe Wayne, what is the reason we would decertify at this point? And because you bring up the question of whether or not we can, whether or not we or this group or the township can apply for certain grants.
Right. Well,
If the road is decertified. Now, are we doing this because it then counts against us in our, I mean, how does it work?
Well, so decertification allows us to retain public road right of way without going to the full extreme of abandonment. So we got into the conversation of decertificate. You decertify it. At a later time, you can recertify and open it back up. But it was the discussion of we're not maintaining it. We're sitting out there and we've got it all closed off because.
And morally accepting the Act 51 monies, I mean.
Correct, because we're not maintaining it, we're kind of stuck in limbo because the conversations have been with with the road there, if we don't do a full fix, we're just throwing money at a couple of the problems. We're, it's a three-pronged problem that we have. We've got coastal erosion, we've got perched water table, and we've got surface waters. So unless you're gonna address all three for a very large amount of money that we're looking at out there, you're not fully solving the problem. And it's not one of those where you can do 75 or 80% good and most people are happy and you walk away. It's you're gonna have to address the whole big picture. And that's where for that kind of amount of money, we got then kind of talking about, well, if we don't want to go to a full abandonment where then we don't have the option if funds become available, how else can we address it? And so that got us in the conversation of the decertification.
The community, the preferred option is had to have that road open.
Sure.
So the community has to come up with a way, because the road commission doesn't have it, to get $3 million, basically, round it up or down. Right, okay.
We're clever.
And we've paid, when we've paid an engineering firm to design a solution.
And they did.
And they did, and it's ready for
The
us.
same thing.
Yeah, the township came up with something similar with Gordy Fraser saying, well, what are they gonna do with it? It wasn't as maybe a thorough as an examination, but they're the township is Gordy's are the township engineers, and they were quite good, and they worked well with, what's the name of the gal who I thought was so great from
GEI.
Yeah.
That's Carlin.
Yeah, they're really, I think they're really, I've worked with a lot of engineering companies. I thought we have somebody good working for us and we paid them at their rate. And we've got a solution. All we need is the money. And so the group said the preferred option is let's get this, keep the road, keep the availability to rebuild the road when the money is here. You know, I don't know that it's going to matter if it sloughs off anymore or not. I don't think it's going to change that huge amount of money we're going to put to it or not.
We're gonna wind up having to dig it out and address the water table.
And you know, to fund, well, I don't know how much it costs. The solutions that locally have been done with private owners are not what we probably would engage. So the numbers really aren't fair to compare. You could do it for 300 a foot, and we think it's going to cost 1,000 a foot, because they're not the same solution. But if we spend the public's money on it, in my opinion, we have to guarantee the public that this is money well spent. And the other solutions, there's no guarantee of the solutions that didn't come from GEI. I mean, I believe the solutions they propose to be a complete engineered solution to this road, along with the deep water trenching for all this perch stuff.
And because that's part of that.
Yeah, I mean, all that water that's migrating across there.
And fixing the road is actually probably the least expensive of the whole project.
Yeah, because we can rebuild that like
Yes.
A couple thousand feet of
So
road.
the big thing here is, how do we pay to rebuild the bluff? That is not necessarily all of our.
And I think Isaiah thought it might be the benefit to the people in Peninsula Township enough that if Blood Road would, that benefits everybody in the township. It might add to all of their
I think
value.
to some extent it does, to Minnesota Township.
It does. I mean, he would have been here and with support, and we've got a resolution from about a year ago with the township in full support of the reopening. And they understand it's going to be expensive, but you know, the other thing too is, you know, I'm an engineer, different. I'm not a road engineer, but you know, there's always a couple more solutions too. And that's one of the things that we're doing. Also, we've got a couple other engineers and a couple professors looking at two things. One is the shoreline, but probably more importantly is the deep waters issue. And, you know, just a typical, let's just build a big hole, fill it full of rocks, put a couple drains in. That's one way of doing it. There's other ways of doing it. If you look at the construction, you know, ordinances that around here is that, French drains. If you put a French drain system together at the collection points, and we've got a map pretty much of where those collection points would be, because we got a map of where that clay line is. You might be able to solve the problem that way, but it needs some modeling. And, we're not going to want to hire an engineering firm, but we can go to Northern Michigan, we can go to Northern or Michigan Tech, and we can get some pretty bright people working on that, and they'll love it because that's a great senior project. I did something similar way back when people were worried about certain types of pollution. So it's, again,
Have you took that to the drainage commissioner?
I've talked to Andy about it, yeah. And he basically is, ambivalent, I guess, I would say on that. Because he's got his book of this is what is the proven, this is the best technology. And it's a matter of, is this good enough technology? And that's something that we would be.
So the only thing I want to say here is we pumped the brakes on decertification. That was a pretty logical argument that was brought the last month.
So we
I can't
don't
remember.
make the decision till March anyway.
Right, so we pumped the brakes on decertification because we don't want to limit options.
Right.
And the whole reasoning for the decertification was if we were gonna build cul-de-sac.
Right.
Because then you're building a cul-de-sac
Right,
here, you're building a cul-de-sac
Yeah.
here. There's no road, you're saying.
And
basically
honestly,
road
we've been operating without cul-de-sacs at this point. The people who live there know what's up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you might have one or two people turn around in somebody's driveway, going up the hill, but.
it's you got to, right at the north, you got a house.
Yeah.
Right at the, you're not going to be able to put a cul-de-sac.
No.
You don't have enough room on
It's-
the right of ways. So, I mean, that solution, it is going to be extremely expensive too. And to be honest, if I was to look at this as a 3-year livelihood before any decision gets made, that'd be a waste of money. If I got 600, I think it was 650 or whatever, throw it into fixing. It's not
That's unreasonable.
doing anything. So,
All right, well,
I mean, and I think, I talked briefly about your strategy session last time. I think this is kind of a good example of how to look at some of that stuff is, how, when you look at your projects and let's just take the trucks that are on the agenda. You got 4 trucks, $600,000. Okay, do we have data on the usage of the present trucks? Are they at 98%, et cetera?
we have a lot of data that would support, and not just the data on the use of the trucks, but what's coming down the pike in terms of changes in emissions and what we're going to be using. And I mean, there's a lot of things that affect that. So
I agree. And I think, the strategy you talk about, you're going to be pushing traffic on Hammond Road. That's the strategy
well, Hammond was built for.
Right, but now you're putting in, you basically turn down any roundabout thought process on airport. But yet you think about putting it on Hammond where you're going to be throwing a whole lot more traffic. Not, in the future, does that make sense too? I mean, think of it in 10 years. Do you want a bunch of, would you like roundabouts on airport? No. Would you want roundabouts on a high traffic, Hammond? Maybe not. So, I mean, that's what, you'll get into this in your strategy. Where's the unseen consequences of some of the things that are done, which seem very logical at the point, but when you look at your total picture, where you want to grow and how you want to develop it, sometimes the answer, the obvious answer isn't the obvious answer. I think, that's part of what a good consultant will lead you guys through, hopefully in February. So, all right.
He mentioned the bicycle accident. And I don't care what road you're on up there, it's dangerous to ride your bike. I've ridden my bike on Peninsula Drive all the way up to the end. I've been down Bluff Road when it was intact several years ago. And there's people drive too fast anyway, no matter where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a biker. My sister and her husband own a bike shop. Not here in Wisconsin. So I bet I'm one of those too expensive bikes that I got it for cheap.
And that was unfortunate. And it was unfortunate too. I don't know. I mean, it was she was out 6 in the morning or something.
They're like 7:15 or something, yeah.
It's dark. I mean, it was dark then.
She used to ride her bike to work every day.
Yeah. Okay, I don't wanna,
But no, but I mean, same thing. I've talked to the leader of the Kalamazoo Bike Club and they will never come up. They'll come up here and ride the Carter trails, but they won't go on the peninsula.
so that's,
Because it's
that's
too
actually a good
dangerous.
point. That's actually a good point that kind of backs up what you're saying about, was it important to the peninsula? It is important to the peninsula for those kind of reasons, because that is commerce. It is, it brings people out and what have you.
And the
All
point is, they're gonna come if it's safe,
All
if they know if it's safe or not, because they're gonna come, because they don't know the area. So they're coming, just like they're coming, for Thanksgiving weekend. They're coming, like it or not.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
That'll move us into our consent calendar.
The consent calendar is used to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together without discussion. Requests by any person present to remove any item from the consent calendar for full discussion as an agenda item are automatically respected. The action items noted in parentheses for all items remaining on the consent calendar are approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. The manager recommends the following items be adopted. 1, minute. 2, payroll. 3, accounts payable. 4, financial report. And 5, reports and communications.
Okay. I included the Bluff Road communication from the county board chair in case you wanted to pull that. Hater, I don't know. It was
I think after the discussion that we
you
just have, I think I'm
Satisfied
okay with
Okay.
keeping it up.
that's kind of why I did it. 'Cause
Yeah,
I knew
appreciate
it
that.
would be there.
Yeah, that was a question for me that's on the agenda, but it's not in the packet.
Yeah, it was essentially Dan had sent a letter and
Right,
the county chair forwarded it.
Yeah, right.
So, does anybody on the board, would anybody on the board like to pull anything from the consent calendar? Would anybody in the public like to pull
Well,
anything?
I guess I would like to know what
That was a letter from Dan Olson.
that's the letter from Dan
Yeah.
Olson?
Yeah.
And it says it's from the county board chair.
Well, he forwarded because Dan had sent a letter to the Dan had sent a letter to
Commissioner Kofi,
yeah, right.
Right.
Kofi, forwarded the board chair.
Okay, so that is the letter then. Okay.
Correct.
All right. And at least they know what it is. Yeah.
All right.
And I would make motion for that in your packet
Well,
because it's not available to the public otherwise.
it's available. It's a matter of public record. We have it available. I mean, so if you could just make sure that it's available online, that would be great. All right.
All right.
All right. Let's take a vote on that, I guess. I think, well, we need a motion
To approve
Thank you,
the
Alan.
consent calendar.
Second.
And was it Joe or? That was Joe. All right.
Too quick for me.
Yeah, I know, I'm telling you. Roll call, please.
Underwood,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Hatham,
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Gilman.
Yes, all right, so consent calendar. No items removed from the consent calendar moves us to item D, heavy duty tandem axle trucks.
Okay, these are our winter snow plowing trucks. We need to order them for the 2024 model year trucks. We looked into it because of the 2027 becoming the new emission standard and everyone's telling us not to buy those. So we looked, our normal plan is to buy 3. The maximum we could get this year is 4. So if we go with 4 this year, 4 next year, and 4 for 26, that means we'll be able to skip that first big year of all the problems that we know are coming with the new emission standards. So instead of 3, we're asking for approval to buy 4 for a total of $620,000 more or less.
Red, you're not asking us for the rest, but you're
Letting us know.
you're letting us know that you want to buy 4
We have,
following year also and 4 the following year also.
yeah, and this is the resolution we need to have to get the vendor to commit to the order. And then it'll be paid for out of a year and a half from now.
Thank you.
So,
out there a ways.
You want a motion? I'll make a motion that we purchase 4 Western Star tandem axle heavy duty trucks for $620,000 more or less.
Your chance, Charlie.
I'll second.
Oh, you're spending the money, Carl. What's going on?
I'm the bad guy, I guess, here.
So, question, are these tandem trucks gonna be replacing any existing trucks?
Yes.
So how many do we have now?
We will always have the same number of trucks. We have 37 trucks. 2 of which, well, actually, if you count some spares, we actually have 39, but we have 2 of them are single axles for the culvert or the cul-de-sacs that we have in Garfield Township. There's just so many of them, we need a smaller truck. But other than that, they're all the same trucks. And we have our last of our ancient trucks will be coming out of service with this current year coming. The 3 that we have coming, we'll put the last of our 2003s out the door.
So you're planning to buy 8 trucks over the course of the next 3 years?
12 over the course of the
Over the
next
course of
3
3 years.
instead of over the course of the next 4.
Is to plan for obviously any replacements that need to be
Yes.
taken and in order to avoid that 2027.
Yes, because we typically keep trucks for 13 years roughly.
Okay.
If there's something goes wrong, they might go out the door earlier. If it's running great, we may keep it around if there's another one that needs to go.
Sometimes they're worth more. We do better return wise, and that was part of the something else we need to talk about is that vehicle management,
Yes.
vehicle assets, part of that plan, because we started talking about it. And in fact, it was like the pickups. I mean, we would keep doing it, but we can't get the pickups right now.
Right.
And the idea is that the way we buy them, we can sell them for as much as we buy them for.
Right. And that's what will happen too, because
Yeah.
over the next 3 years, we'll also be selling some of these.
Yeah, we'll be selling, but right now, we're basically one of the trucks that we're gonna replace. I don't know if anyone's going to buy it. It's that old, but there's a Sterling that we still have in service. That's a spare. And that's,
What's their name over Roger City or wherever? it was.
yeah, so, but those are so old that you can't really get parts. So we have other road commissions that will buy that from us, but they give us like $4,000 for it.
For parts.
So we'll end up turning around on these and we'll be able to sell them for about 150 to 160,000, but they'll be upfitted. So it's not 100% of the cost, but you get about half the cost back. And like when you look at Marquette, what they do, they keep their trucks a lot longer, but they also have 7 mechanics on staff all the time, working nonstop to repair trucks that are 20 years old. And we have a hard enough time keeping 4 mechanics. So we end up with more reliable trucks. We don't have downtime. We keep our fleet in a good shape and we get a lot of money back on the residual sale of it.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
And when I first came on the board, they basically were running them into the ground. I mean, they were not replacing them at all to speak of until they absolutely had to. So our fleet now is far superior than it was 12 years ago, by far.
Right.
Pickup wise also,
Yeah.
those pickups had floorboards that didn't have
There were
floorboards.
There are stop signs.
They didn't have floorboards.
Roll call, please.
Brown,
Yes.
Hazel,
Yes.
Weenan,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Gilman.
Yes, all right. Let's see. MDOT cost participation agreement for Veterans Drive and Cedar Run Road.
Yes, this is a pretty standard. It does follow all the applications and agreed upon cost shares with the rural task force, the process that we go through for all this beforehand. So we have 2 projects that are being combined into one contract, but they're each tracked separately by their job number. The first is the Veterans Drive from South Airport Road northerly to the Traverse City South City limits. That total project cost is $509,500 estimated. I've got the breakdown there. We're utilizing COVID funds, STP funds, and local funds. And then we also have the Cedar Run Road from approximately 550 feet west of Harris Road to North Long Lake Road. And that is a 503,500 estimated, utilizing federal STP funds and local funds. Total estimated estimate for the contract is $1,013,000. This is in the December 2nd MDOT bid letting with item number 248. It will require a 2% DVE participation. We don't get any choice in that matter. MDOT assigns that. But everything else kind of is in there and checks out. And we
In the packet, our local funds for the Veterans Drive, our local funds, 223,898, and then our local funds on Cedar Run project, it's 173,500. So we're getting good bang for the buck, I guess.
So local funds are village or the MTF?
That's us. That's.
typically
It's
it's MTF.
Yeah, we start with MTF for that type of project, but we can do either one.
Need a motion for this.
We're gonna need a motion for it.
Motion to approve the cost sharing agreement, cost participation agreement.
Yeah,
Second.
and then Joe. Come on, Carl.
I will wait.
Roll call, please.
Chasm,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
and Gilman.
Yes. Okay. Item F, request to abandon a portion of Third Street in Green Lake Township.
Yes, I had put into your packet, tried to give you some, a short synopsis. The applicant and her husband own the parcels on both sides of this section of Third Street, which is within the plat, but is what we call a paper street. So the road was never built. There are no trails, there are no utilities, there's nothing in through there. The only thing going in and across that section is part of their driveway and a little bit of their deck off their home. And so that's what kind of brought this to, is because it's in the platted road right away, they're having issues, so they'd like to resolve that. And this is the best mechanism in which to resolve that.
And this doesn't address any right of way, right of way for the utilities or any of their utility concerns or anything.
If there were utilities within that right of way,
That's not our business.
the applicant would have to give an easement to the utilities until they no longer had need or desire for that, for those facilities. In this particular case, there are no utilities.
And it's nothing we use, period. They had nothing to do with it.
The road abandonment, just for your information, the road abandonment, because this is within a plat, would extinguish the public's personal interest into this. The applicants will have to go to circuit court to address the private interests of the other owners within that particular plat. But this is the first step.
And just for the general public, Interlochen is okay with it.
Green Lake Township.
Green Lake Township.
We've reached out to them. We've just not heard anything pro or con against it. So nothing forward.
So this is just gonna get the ball rolling for them, and then if issues arise, they arise at that point in time.
Correct.
Right, they can always,
But we've done this before.
Yeah.
We've done this abandonment.
Just right in Interlochen. So
Yeah, we did. I,
Couple years
one or
ago.
two up on the peninsula. Too. I'll make the motion to allow, geez, I'm too quick. Resolution 2022-11-05 for the abandonment of a portion of Third Street in Green Lake Township.
support.
okay. All right, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Chasm,
Yes.
Gilman.
Yes. Right. That's the good news on to those property owners, and they can pursue their next step, which is gonna be with their neighbors.
Yeah, our next steps will be putting the advertisement in the paper for 3 consecutive weeks. Then we also do notifications to the township, to MDOT. There's another one in there too.
So we just started the process.
Yes, yeah, it's a nice process.
Thanks, Will. All right, brings us to item G, request to release drainage easement on Hammond Road. This is part of our construction project.
So this is actually kind of outside of our construction project. And tonight with us is Mr. Andy Purvis with Gaussing Zuvek. He's attending on behalf of the developer. So this really kind of came to light because we were studying the intersections of Hammond at Garfield in that 3 mile for future, right-of-way needs with roundabouts there, because that's what the traffic modeling shows is going to be necessary as we, as traffic increases over the years. What that got is we got some very preliminary kind of sketches and what kind of right-of-way we would need. Right in at the same time, the developers took an active interest in moving forward with their project. So we kind of shared that information back and forth between Andy and I to say, okay, the developer, they want this. We have a future need of this. I don't want to have to come in 5 or 7 years down the road and say, hey, we've got to take part of your parking lot or part of your building in order to make this roundabout happen on that. And so working with Andy, they were able to kind of modify around a little bit of their designs onto it. But as part of that, this drainage easement kind of popped up and came to light. Looking into it, we purchased this back in, was it 93? With some other projects that we had kind of going on in the area. It's a relatively small section. It's separated off of the road outside of the right of way. And it's a drainage easement that right now, if you walk out there, you've got the best view because you're on top of this knob.
In other words, it's ridiculous to be a drainage easement. I mean.
Yeah. So,
I mean, you're on a hill.
So what we were suspecting is they were probably looking at that, said, hey, there's a sand pile right there.
Right.
We could take that and make that hill a hole and we could dump water into it. So I think that's what they were probably thinking. We don't necessarily have an issue out there with our drainage right now. We're curb and gutter and we have spillways that empties the road surface waters. We're not going to get anything wider right in there unless we were going to.
So we've addressed it in our
stuff
since then.
Yes. Yep. The design that Andy has got out there would work with retaining the flow of water coming off the spillways and routing it and getting it on over to where it dissipates out into the flatter area, filters, and then goes off into the creek. So I don't know if Andy, if you want to add anything to that.
I think you pretty well covered it. If you guys have any questions.
So it's an easement we no longer need. And someone is willing to pick up, basically buy it from us to get it off our books.
Right. Yep. We did. Yeah, we did spend some money back in '93. So talking with Andy and developers, they looked at that and they kind of liked the idea of going with the CPI and saying, okay, this is what it was. You bought it back in '93 for this. This is how much that dollars would be worth today, and made us that offer for that.
Yeah, we're talking like 3,000.
Can anybody tell me where this is? Do you have a drawing of?
It
was in our packet.
Well, the descriptions.
Not a drawing. Not really.
Southeast quadrant, Hammond and Garfield.
It's there. It's here. The drawing's here. Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to tell.
I couldn't tell what it was.
He's a little higher. Right up here is the intersection. This is going east. This is the driveway into the shell. This is into the other development.
Thank you. And they've been no issue. I just I didn't see that.
Right, yeah, and I just want to clarify, they've been really good about our future needs and working their plans into our future needs.
So
Yep, they looked at
Whoever
that.
sits there,
They,
that happens, doesn't have to.
I guess we're beyond the horse trading stage, you know, so we're not dickering or anything.
Does this have any involvement with the county drain commissioner at all? Do we need to notify them or anything like that?
no, doesn't have any bearing on it, so.
What's the amount?
Motion to, request.
2,550.
release of the
Oh, right.
Drainage easement. Yeah. Motion to approve.
Okay, Alan
I'll support.
and Carl. Is making us some money tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, we.
Big dollars, yeah. Yeah, break out the pencils on the big budget for next year, so. All right, any other discussion on this? Seeing none, roll call please.
Underwood,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Chasm,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
and Gilman.
All right. You bought yourself a pile of sand.
Sounds good. That relieves some of the other constraints that we were up against
Right.
with the township, so.
Moves us to item H, budget discussion. We pretty much, we had a pretty good discussion back the 11th.
There's been a couple changes.
Okay.
We did find one double accounting error that allowed us to save a couple $100,000, but then we also had to add in a couple of things. So we ended up balancing about where we were, about 3.8 million. So we're pretty much in the same place where we thought we would be. Since then, we've got our insurance numbers back, and our insurance numbers increased for healthcare and dental and optical combined by about,
With the healthcare across the board, it was just over 5%. With the dental and vision, and then including our additionals like our life insurance, it averaged out to like 2.5. Some of them held, some of them were 5, but the overall average was 2.5.
So that's our net increase.
yes.
On our dental and vision, like through Guardian, through Priority, it was about 5, just over 5%.
Not terrible.
And the hard cap went up slightly more than that, so we are not going to be falling into an issue. And it will be the same offer basically that we made to all of our employees last year.
And that was an interesting part of the discussion we had at the Paul Bunyan, by the way, was that hard cap, you know, so.
Yeah, and the reason everyone else has a problem with the hard cap is because they're weight rated. We are a large employer, so we are no longer age weighted like they are. We are basically within the pool. So it's like, you know, they have their experience factor and everything else. So as you have older people, it's obviously more expensive.
Their aging workforce, so it makes more of a difference.
Yeah, so as people retire, they're gonna start seeing less of an increase, but they still have a lot of older people. So because they're smaller, they fall into that kind of high-end insurance pool where it ends up going up 8, 9, 10%. We're at 5, which I thought was pretty darn good compared to what I expected with inflation.
We should have told John he should lay himself off and that would help. Brad, what's the total number, budget number
For
total everything?
the total budget,
The bottom line, bro.
Bottom line.
so we are looking at a total expenditure of 37,525,542. Or, I'm sorry, 33 million. I was looking at the wrong year. 33,921,000. Okay, that's our, so that's our,
He wasn't, yeah, you were there.
hold on. Sorry, I'm sorry.
The 37 million.
30, yeah, 36,
37 million.
yeah,
what you
dropped
told us.
under 37. So we're at 36,387. Sorry, I'm having a hard time
Well, that's-
focusing.
What was it, 30?
36,387. And our revenue is coming in at total revenue is expected to be 31,050,000. thousand. And so we're at a negative 5,336,000, but that is because we have carryovers. So our carryovers will be pulling down the fund balance because our fund balance is going to be up near 10 million at the end of this year. So it'll pull our fund balance back down to where we expect it to be, about $4 million.
I know we talked about doing a Google share, but that's why I didn't have those spreadsheets.
Yeah, and we have, and that, we're working on that. We just want to get a couple of last minute things put into it, and then you guys will have all the access to it. We had to do a couple of tweaks as we're going through, making sure we weren't giving you guys a lot of bad information. So we went through everything again, and that's where I found a couple of those issues. And Heather's been working hard with the benefits folks. So, you know, we're going to be at like 3.8 million. You guys wanted a fund balance of 3.5.
So we're still gonna be over the fund balance of where we were.
So, and that right now then comes into another topic that we would like to have a brief discussion about, and that is, in the past, from the time I started here, I found something from Cook that he explained that typically we have a 3% increase annually for the non-union folks, everybody who's not in the union. We are in a union contract for next fiscal year. We're going to be going into negotiations with them, but we have a new calendar year coming up January 1st, when we typically give our adjustments to our non-union folks. So effectively, for every percent that we offer as an increase to the non-union, it will cost the road commission $17,400 for every percent. That's to cover all of the non-union. So if we were somewhere around, say, a 5%, it would be $87,000 additional. And that is already where we kind of benchmarked it into the budget, was about that 5%, not knowing where you guys were going to be. So, I mean, it's a total of $100,000, give or take, but that we put it in there so we'd have some number and we can quickly go back in and change. But I just wanted guidance, and this does not mean every single person gets 5%. Some people get less, other people are gaining skills, they'll get more. So it's going to be somewhere around an average of whatever percent we come up with here. And if you're going to give me a ballpark to shoot for, I just want to have an idea so I'm not throwing out ridiculously high.
Just to clarify where we're at. So what we did this last year was we everybody got a raise.
Yes, that was an equalization.
It was equalization, right? And the contract will be, because they participated, and because we asked for their permission to give the raise to the union employees, the contract then stipulates that we will have the 3% increase on top of what it is.
No, they get, the next year is 2%. So
Okay, well, whatever it is, it's a fixed amount of 2%. And in the budget, did we account for any possible equalizations again?
Not at this point.
Not at this
no.
point.
We've done some research and we have found preliminary numbers that, you know, we're seeing on average about 6.5% to 7% in the road commissions going up for what has changed. Now, they don't necessarily tell us all of their people. And is it new people? Is it people gaining skills? But that's basically where they're at. Now, our union folks also have the opportunity to advance positions. And how many have we had this year? Ballpark? I mean, it's...
We had 9 going into the fall, and
yeah,
we really had a good handful more. So.
Yeah. So out of the 30 union guys that we have that are drivers, this does not include the mechanics, because the mechanics have a separate agreement or separate pay structure. But out of them, they've all, at least those, say half, have received a step increase, I'll call it, or they've moved from a road maintenance worker 1 to a 2, or from a 2 to a 3, or from a 3 to an equipment operator 1. So, you know, that's another 4% that they get when they gain skills.
Well, I mean, but the positions themselves are saying that.
But the position, yeah, so from an equipment operator 1, from this year to an equipment operator to next year is 2%.
Okay.
And we have not even started looking at them as we get ready to start
And,
negotiating.
and hopefully inflation flattens out a
Yes.
little bit so that it's not, you know, the disparity is so much.
Right.
You have something to say?
I thought we were, on our wage reviews, I thought we were on the fair/generous. And I,
Kind of looking forward to the end of the contract that way.
yeah,
Okay.
yes, and I would think that perhaps we should have our non-union compensation be no more than the contract of the unionized employees. Our steps were substantial, I thought.
For some, yes. It depends on where they were. What
There wasn't anybody who was,
It was like the minimum was about what, 3.6? 3.6 was the minimum that anybody got. And that was in May. That is effective.
So, I mean, just for clarification purposes, for non-union, you just said that obviously different non-union will get different percentages of raises. So help me understand, what exactly are you asking?
I'm asking for what, the board never has said, they never get into position by position.
Right.
They just say, okay, take the labor pool and we're authorizing you to give X% above and beyond what you had for labor pool this year.
So like set a top limit.
Yes, what, and that can be, so if you said 5%, let's just say 5 because it's easier.
Right.
So then we say, okay, some people did exceptionally well, so they might get 6%. Other people did a little bit less than what we expect, and they might get 3%. So, but with across the balance, then you also have people that are absorbing additional responsibilities, so they may get 6.5%. You know, so but the whole thing balances out, and that's all I care about is how does it get balanced out? What is the percent increase that we want to allocate? And like I say, so it's 17,000 per percent is what it costs, $17,400 per percent that the road commission authorizes. And it's, like I say, for as long as I've been here, the memorandum I had from Jim was that it was 3%. I don't know when that started.
I don't disagree with that, especially if you're doing some averaging. And I think that in order that you don't really kind of, you know, well, this position is a little less worthwhile, I guess, you know, everybody's costs are going up.
Right.
So I don't disagree with the 3% or a 2 to 3% range, depending on what you feel is necessary. I don't disagree with it, but you know, I mean, it's up to this board if somebody wants to make a motion in one way or the other, or is that necessary? Or
well, I need to know a ballpark.
or should we just give guys?
Well, yeah,
because
I think in the past, we've always said that, give you a percentage, or
yeah.
Jim, when we started with Jim, it was a percentage, and then Jim, like you said, that was a total dollar amount to hand out, and then he just percentaged it out to whoever.
Right.
And honestly, the whole drop in the bucket, you know, I know we have a lot of drops in the bucket. We have a lot of buckets with, you know, holes in them and everything too. But
So what was it last year?
3%, but then we did so the 3% that we did on average was across the entire non-union people. So everybody got roughly 3%, give or take. Okay? But then we came through and we said, you know, we're falling behind the rest of the people in our area, as well as some other road commissions. So what we did with that original one was we said, okay, yes, inflation is higher. And so we did a evaluation where we gave these positions a equalization amount to bring them into kind of the middle of where other road commissions of our size are.
Okay.
So when we did it, we said, okay, we don't want to be Cadillac, but the Cadillac car.
Right.
Cadillac. We don't want to be the Cadillac, but we also don't want to be the UAW.
That number was about 400 grand, wasn't it?
Total for across everybody, yes, it was almost
Including the
100,000. Because some people got a lot, like our lowest end labor type people out there took like 9%.
We had a few other positions that we also did benchmark on, so
Yeah.
those were over 10.
This started when we said you were getting no
bites
for the engineers.
Right.
Here.
Okay.
And Wayne is pretty experienced engineer. This is a pretty big county. And when Joe quit, because I thought we were gonna get 3. You were on that too.
We're still trying.
We were supposed to add a 3rd. It was a desire to add a 3rd, but our wage rates were too low to get a graduate professional engineer. And so they looked at everybody and said, yeah, maybe we're on the cheap side, right? I mean, we were a little low probably.
Yeah. And so we set
I
ourselves.
mean, people want to do something else. If it's not good enough, there's other places they can apply for jobs, but we didn't want to be chasing them employees away. We have a good workforce.
Right, yeah, and it's definitely, we do have a good workforce right now. My worry is, and I say this only because when we put it in there, we put it in at that midway point. Pretty much everybody fell into that midway point for the rest of the counties that fit our demographics. So we looked at cost of living in the counties. We looked at the size of the road commissions. We looked at the surrounding area, and we looked at the type of job that the person was doing. And based on the level of the technicality or the skills they needed to do that job, we adjusted the wages for them to make them to be in the middle of kind of that pool of people. So our technicians fell into the middle of all the rest of the engineering technicians.
They did a hell of a lot of work. I mean, it was good work.
Yeah.
You guys did great work on that.
Yeah, and it didn't cost near 100 and some odd thousand that the counties went.
Oh, yeah, for a wage study?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but it was very complete though. I was
So
impressed.
we'll take the wage study stuff out. What was the contract for the union this year? What was the increase from the year before?
I think that was 2.
I think it was 2. I think.
Because they had 2.5. I think they had 2.5, 2 and 2.
Yeah, it was 2% last January. 13%.
But they also, part of the reason why their percent increase was lower was because of our restructuring of positions, as well as some of the other things that we said we needed to add for them. So we increased their safety a lot.
Yeah.
So they could get safety equipment. And so their percent increase still figured out to be at the same 3%. Across the 3 years. So it's 9% across 3 years is the total cost of increase that the union is.
Yeah, and it was a good contract when we did it, but it just, things happened.
So is it reasonable to say if we went with 3%, that as we get into the next year, let's be honest, somebody about 6 months from now, when we do the contract, obviously we might have to readjust them.
Well, I'm sure they're gonna ask for a lot more.
They're gonna be a little tougher this time.
My understanding, and this is just what I had heard from some of the people back there, that they're going to be coming back asking for 8, 6, and 6. So.
Jason's got to get a CDL.
So, well, then that's just it. You know, obviously we aren't looking at that.
Well, we're not in negotiations right now, so I don't really want to talk too much about it.
But I mean,
That's kind of.
so, I mean, you know, but
Making sure that we're kind of.
and like I said, I look around, like I said, some of the road commissions that we did last year, they're in that 6% higher than they were last year when we evaluated them. Some of them have not updated their numbers. We also started looking at some of the other municipalities that are of similar size and do the similar type of things. Problem there is, you know, our guys do just roads. Some people, they're doing roads, they're doing sewers, they're doing water and everything else. But we found that, you know, it's at least 4.5 to 5.5%, pretty much even in these cities that you're seeing.
So the question really is, since the road commission went through all this effort to do the equalization and get all our employees in the mid-level at this point. Whatever percentage we recommend, don't we want to make sure that we don't start sliding back down? So let's propose, let's give Brad a recommendation that at least keeps us at that midpoint level. And I don't know what that percentage is, maybe it is 2%. But how do we figure that out? I mean, we're just throwing out
another wage study.
we are just trying to throw out percentages here, and I'm not sure what the right percentage is.
Well, like I said, for so far what we've seen, I mean, there are some that have not reported any increases yet. They won't report them again until January 1st. But we've also seen people, and we're in the process of calling around to talk to
So
the
what have
road
you seen?
commission.
What have you seen?
I'm seeing like the ones that I've seen are 5.5 to 6.5, one of them 7. But there's also some road commissions pay a lot more because they are in an area where they do more too than we do. I mean,
All right, so the thing is though, I mean, we're talking about what we did was we brought everybody kind of to a midpoint, okay? And the reality is, even since since May, okay? Even since May, we can all look at our grocery bill, it's going up. We can all look at our gas bill, it's not any less. You know, everything still costs more. And frankly, you know, we have to have the ability, we have to have the people, you know, union or non-union. And, you know, that's our greatest asset right now. So, I honestly, I would, if you said, I recommend we do this, I'm gonna go with it.
well, the other option is too, and if you want to say, we can do every one of these callbacks again and get the same things if we can get them. And then just say, if you want to say, okay, we're gonna stay middle point again.
Yeah.
I can do that and I can adjust.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because why would we put all that work into getting our people up to that midpoint and only to start suggesting percentages that makes them slide back?
Well, that makes it much easier actually than saying a percentage, but it just means we have to start making some phone calls and we can deal with that.
All right.
We can do that. And then when we do the budget hearing, we'll report back to you what the total labor cost increase is.
Thank you.
Like we contract out our engineering services, you know, we can contract out our wage study services to the county because they're willing to pay a lot of money.
Yeah, no kidding.
So,
okay. Then the other thing I need from you is to set the public hearing. So if we could do that now.
For the budget?
For the budget, yes.
Be done by.
Well, we have to have it done before the end of the year, but you wanna,
Can we do it early at our December meeting?
you wanna read just the first there?
There you go. The Board of County Road Commissioners will hold a public hearing to receive December 15th at 7 p.m.
So if you make a resolution that says effectively that, if you make.
is it a motion, Alan?
To hold it December 15th at 7 p.m. Yes.
That's what we're normally doing.
Because there's very few, if any, public comment.
Yeah.
So,
That's what
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
doing.
We don't even do it, we don't do it early, we just do it during the.
Yeah,
That's fine.
so.
Did you make a motion, Alan?
I guess I did.
okay. Alan.
I'll support it.
That was
Alan and
the,
Carol.
And Kylie will take care of getting it all notified out for us.
Thanks.
Thank you. That covers that.
Thank you, Rick.
Need a vote or so. Do we need a vote? I mean, to set the hearing, I guess. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, let's see.
Okay.
All right. Item I.
All right, township meetings. So only one that really wants to concentrate on having them all be at the same meeting is East Bay.
Yeah.
So the rest of the townships are okay with us going. So I don't care what month you want to do it, but I'd like to be able to do them every quarter and preferably 3 months apart. So if we can say, you know, if we're gonna meet with this township in January, we're gonna meet with this township in February, we're gonna meet with this township in March. So if that's okay, and you guys are good with that, unless anybody has a township that they want to meet more often with.
I think we leave it up to the townships. I think that's an initial start. I think that's a reasonable plan.
And then-
Just have quarterly.
And then we would ask that the commissioner show up to that one with us.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, they're assigned.
Okay. So does anybody have a preference for any township or any month that they're going to be better or worse for? Or do you just want me to start having Kylie send out invites to go to each township? Okay.
Yeah,
Because I don't know what their schedules are.
Okay.
On to
Yeah,
less
we
than
got
once a
them a
month,
couple months ago, yeah.
Okay.
some are less than once a month.
Yeah.
Or
Some are like-
Summer.
every 2 weeks.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
So we will then, she will then set it up and make note, so we'll start in January and we'll continue through, and that means then that each of you will see me at each of your townships 4 times next year.
Well, and this is really important, and the commissioners have made it clear that they want to see a little more of this.
Okay.
So
Well, that's fine, I'm good for it.
those are our bosses.
And as we look towards next year, we're gonna do our lunch again, right? With all.
In May. Same time every year.
Every year.
And they all show up for that one, because it's a free lunch.
All right,
All right,
that brings us to item J, purchase 3 pickup trucks. Are we actually able to get them?
they are sitting on the lot in Lansing. As soon as you sign off on this, then we can go down and pick them up.
That's amazing.
That is.
Yes, and that's the most we're gonna get for this year.
That's it.
That's the last, that's it. 3 is all we can get. We needed 5, so we're gonna get,
Single cabs too. right?
yeah, that's the only thing they made. They did not make any crew cabs for us.
Wow. Ugh.
What's going on? Why is?
It's a
Because-
backlog.
Because they don't make as much, the manufacturers don't make as much off of selling to government. It's a good advertising thing for them to say, hey, look, this road commission uses all GMCs or whatever. But they're not making as much money as they can by selling these things to the people. So what they did is, like GMC did a massive run of pickup trucks. Just filled it and sent out everything and said, that's the maximum that any one person can buy, or one agency. It's 3. So for us, 3 shorts us 2. We're gonna get 2 terrains. Is that what it is? Yeah. But like Oakland County needed 15 trucks. They're getting 3.
But this is limitation is to the might.
Yeah, yeah, and we are looking at trying to get something else through Sourcewell too. So, but
Problem with
Build
that.
back better. And you'll like it.
All righty, so I'd entertain a motion if somebody would like to make a motion.
Make a motion to accept Todd Wenzel Buick's offer to sell 2023 2500 4x4 single cab pickup for $36,113 with a total cost of $108,339. More or less.
Do we have support? Sure. Carl, you're spending more money. Roll call, please.
Brown,
Yes.
Chasm,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
and Gilman.
Yes. Disposal of equipment. This is the fun stuff, where we get to get rid of
these are trucks
our
that
leftovers.
are they're out of our longevity that we want to have for our vehicles. We've held 2 of them longer than we wanted to because we couldn't get replacements. So,
So do we have?
We're doing the online auction thing?
yeah, Gov bids. We sell them all through Gov bids. We've been doing quite well. We've been getting 15,000 for pickup trucks right now that have 120,000 miles on them.
And right now, that plow on a pickup, somebody's gonna be all over that.
Yeah, well, it's beyond what we don't use them on our trucks right now. We
Right.
use them on the 1 ton, so that we're not needing that anymore.
You need motion for this.
Yes.
Motion to approve the disposal of equipment list.
Second.
No? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. You guys get what you can. All right. Item L, purchase and install the truck lift.
The last one that we have to install, this is also a heavier duty one than we did last year, so it is a little more money. That gives us 2 lifts that can raise our biggest trucks, even if they are loaded. Because
Wow.
occasionally they.
That's a lot of weight, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so they can handle lifting it. So we do need to have that because occasionally the hydraulics break and there's no way to fix them without lifting them, and with their full of sand, it's kind of hard.
Every time they pick up one of those trucks, a little pops up down on China.
Yeah. So we had this already set. The budget has not been approved clearly, but we had this set in the budget at 120,000. We're going to recommend leaving it at 120,000 in the budget for next year.
I'll make a motion.
Carl,
To approve the lift at $117,750 more or less.
jump in the Christmas party. Or any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Chasm,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Yes, unanimous. And M, resolution 2022-1106, grant funding to Eagle from Bluff Road.
Okay, so we did the research for the discussions that were taking place at Paul Bunyan to try and figure out what the deal is with this. This grant funding that is available for us is for high water or other erosion damage due to what happened with the water levels and everything that's out there. The only condition of the acceptance of funds is it cannot be placed in the same place. It has to be moved to someplace that is sustainable and resilient. And as such, the road would have to be completely relocated if you accept it.
Oh,
The road has to be put somewhere else.
So you cannot put the road back in the same place. You have to move the road.
can we move it 5 feet?
I was gonna say, can we turn it into a bridge?
No, it has to be moved to someplace that is defined by them as sustainable.
Yeah, because they don't want to keep paying for the same road to
So
road.
So what they're talking about is if we moved it, for example, around the development or something. that would-
They're
that would qualify.
basically from what I read on it is it's creating a new road to deal with the fact that you can no longer keep this road going where it is. So effectively, what this means is it would have to be rerouted through Mallard up to Warsaw.
If that was what we were.
If we go, now, this doesn't mean we have to accept the funds, but I do need a resolution in hand.
It has to be by the 30th.
It has to be in by the 30th. If we don't have the resolution approved by the 30th, we can't even look at it.
How much is available and how much could we get? And could we,
Like 14 million.
It's like 14.5 million, but they think, for stuff like this, if it's a large enough project, they're talking potentially increasing it. So,
If we don't do it, it's off the table.
yeah,
So it's options. It's.
yeah.
All
It's
options
options.
open.
we need, yeah.
And we can say no, even if they say you got the money.
Right. We don't have to accept the grant, but we have to have a resolution to them that says that, yes, we would be interested in this
Right.
grant, and it has to be turned in by the 30th.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Support.
Ellen. And I do want to continue the discussion, but just now in terms of moving it, I mean, I think what I'd like to see though, is I'd like to see a research on how far we have to move it. If, for example, we're to, I don't know, hardwall the hillside, for example, like we did for Lafreniere down here. And then bring it over and away from the scarf, the hill, if that would be possible. And as a potential pursuing what Mr. Skursky had pointed out, if a single lane, basically a passable route could make that work or make it qualify under such a circumstance, because there is room there, but it's just a matter of how stable is it, no matter what.
Right.
In terms of.
And like I said, this is just because this is the only time I have to get this done.
I understand that,
And then,
this
you know,
gives
we're
us
gonna do
options.
the research. We're gonna do the research. this
But
week.
I'd like to have at least eyes on it, on the research in those directions. I don't want to just, because sometimes maybe thinking outside of the box
Sure.
is going to help us a little here.
Yeah, and we will do all of that, and I will be able to send something out, just to say where we land with this and what the options are at least. And if we need to, to reconvene to discuss, maybe Thursday, we do a special if we need to.
All right, any other discussion on this? Seeing that we have a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, so we have, go ahead and submit for the grant funding.
I think the community would be disappointed.
I think so, yeah, I
We don't
know.
submit for it.
Thanks, Brad, for you and
Yeah.
the crew getting everything together.
Thank Jay on that. Jay.
So, he was all over that meeting. He can run that thing, I mean.
He got himself quite a few different assignments while he was there, so I think he's gonna end up probably being the president of the SAMs, if not next year, the year after, so.
All right, brings us to managers' comments.
Well, I don't really have a whole lot. It's been a busy couple of weeks. The budget feels much better. I'm much more confident in it. We do have another candidate that we're gonna be interviewing for the financial manager. But we had a good interview so far, so we're looking forward to interviewing another one here, one more at least. And then we'll hopefully have somebody in December or January, we hope. So, other than that, I just make sure everybody has a safe Thanksgiving. Be careful. We're not expecting any snow on Thanksgiving Day, thankfully enough. It's supposed to warm up a little bit. So that's all I have.
Commissioners' comments, we'll start with Peter.
I think we got the approval for the lights to go on these roundabouts.
Yes, we finally got the inspection.
Okay.
Got it by code?
Yeah. Okay, good. It was, from what I understand, it was a long discussion about the fact that they don't need to do it.
That's right.
It was taken care of. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
And in the future, that's all they're gonna be inspecting is to the panel.
Got it.
And then is the citizen input reporter, is that up and running?
It is,
Okay.
and we are getting some pretty decent usage of it. There's a few tweaks that we'll be making as we move forward with it, but I have heard some pretty positive things with it. I know it works well because I reported a pothole today while I was out driving. I stopped and I did it, and it showed up on the map, so I know it works.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
The 7th of December.
Yes.
If you folks don't know, Hyder, myself, Brad, and I think Wayne is going, correct?
Yes.
To the county.
For the county board, for
county
the
board.
Bluff Road discussion.
Give them a little update on a few things.
All right.
Yes, anybody's welcome, because it's an open meeting that we're not there to discuss our business. So, correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding, because you're not debating or deliberating or anything. You're just there
We're
to.
just gonna do a brief discussion on projects and Bluff Road and a few other things, so.
I got a citizen's criticism on road clearing on the first snow event. On the 16th, was it? 17th, 16th, 17th. But then that same citizen from over the weekend was very complimentary of how well the staff handled that. And the first snow was always a challenge. I get that, so, but anyway, the same citizen sent me a text, just complimenting the guys up and down. So, he noticed and guys did their job this weekend, this last weekend, which was absolutely terrible weather. But I was watching the plows too, and they were out and they were doing a heck of a job. So kudos to the staff.
They definitely did a great job.
Let me hear that.
Yes, yeah, so a negative and a positive.
Yeah, no.
You know, so that's
That's
good.
good follow. I
It is.
appreciate it. That makes
It's
it
not
more
just a one
constructive.
side, you know, so it was, I was very pleased to see both of the texts.
I just wanted to comment on our traffic lights. I really like how our signals are set now, the ones I'm noticing using. That when they turn green, that the left doesn't turn green right away, there's a delay. And so the people who want to jet out of the left turn lane and beat the oncoming traffic, they don't get a green signal right away. How now we're going to our lefts are after the light and not before, but when their lights turn, there's a delay. So that the left is not getting the caution right away. And I really like it. And I wanted, whatever idea that was, I wanted to compliment him on it. That was really, I think, manages the traffic at the intersections much better. You get the signal jumpers who can't go.
There's a couple things, and that's one of them that our lead signal tech, Haley Avery, has really kind of dived into. She works really close with MDOT, and so we're mirroring a lot of those things. We're ahead of MDOT on certain things because they are large, bureaucratic, but there are some of those things that are very safety wise that we're able to just go ahead and implement. And so, yeah.
It's interesting. They probably have timing,
I
like
thought about
timing
that.
school or something
Yeah.
that they sponsor, but they might put it on, but you're right. They're always the last to change everything the way it should be.
And Haley is very, very conscientious about this stuff.
Good.
She really does care about her signals. They're like a passion for her.
Well,
It lives and breathes those.
I don't mind tweaks from here to forever.
It was really good. It just seems like the safety at the intersections have been increased and was great as far as I was concerned. And I love the lefts afterwards, because sometimes people can get through with it. Seems like every light intersection is moving better now. I think you could tell.
Thank you. Yeah, we've done a lot of work here at the Road Commission over the last couple of years on our signals, and we have more improvements coming.
How many new people do we have driving this year doing snowplows? I mean, this
First year plowing.
I grabbed my list and I can tell you exactly.
You know, it's a few though.
There's quite a few.
Probably 10, I
Okay.
would guess, at least.
All right.
I mean,
And-
Seasonal drivers too. We have several new seasonal.
Okay. So we have, are we back to seasonal drivers again?
we always have for nights because of the night shift. We can't.
That's true.
We have 31 people is what we're supposed to have. Right now we have 30, but that's 30.
I just know that we'd
routes a day.
adjusted,
So
we'd adjusted some responsibilities so that we didn't have to
don't
be
have as many
dependent on
seasonals,
seasons.
but we do.
Okay. And the reason I ask that is because there are some people who comment a little, they're not necessarily harsh or anything, but it's like, this is a strange, I've done this before. This is a strange way for them to be doing this. One guy watched him, all he does is left turns. I don't know what that's about, but what is this? NASCAR? No. but in any event, so there are a couple of things that we need to keep on our radar, and that's response time to the public. Clearly, like the church road issue, you bring it up with the commissioners, it does get addressed quickly. And this is really frustrating for me because I'm getting some pushback from the same people who like to complain about our management from time to time. And I'm getting complaints that the clearing left a bunch of stuff in their yard, for example, because we use contractors and they didn't know how to, I don't know what the story is there. But the complaints are they're not very specific, and you can tell it's just like they're just trying to reach out and find things to complain about. All right. I don't want any excuses. for, if somebody says, well, I tried to reach out to the manager and the manager never responded. Okay, I don't have excuses there, because I know better. And I know that if I've ever brought anything to you, you've dealt with it immediately, or Wayne's dealt with it. And Wayne's been excellent about it. Jay's been excellent about it. All you guys have been, as far as I'm concerned, the staff here, when I bring up an issue, they get a response. You brought up the issue with the church road. You moved it across. That was dealt with immediately. We're working on this stuff immediately. I don't know of any time when a road commissioner's got involved that it hasn't been dealt with immediately. And so my assertion is, look, always bring it to one of us. And when we will see if it's.
And you have to always understand too, that there are people that do not like the answer we give.
Understood. And that's for us to take some of the heat on that too.
And so also there are some that, you know, we do respond and we tell them, look, we understand what your concern is. We're not in that mode right now. We can't do that right now, but we have it on the list.
I just want to be very clear though, from where I'm at. If you do get something, it's not through us, at least get a response, and maybe even carbon copy one of us, just so that somebody's in the loop and we know what's going on with these people, so that we can't say to somebody later, I didn't know this is going on. You know, that's all.
Do we log them? Do we log the calls that come?
Not everyone, no. We can, but it's gonna take a long time. I take probably 15 to 20 calls a week. I mean.
I had somebody call you from Long Township, and they said you responded right away. The only time.
And
Very specifically. I don't even know that he.
When we
like
hear
the
about it,
answer
see,
to
this is
that
the
one,
funny
but that
thing.
wasn't it.
When we hear about it,
Response.
we know you're responding. We know you're getting this stuff done. And if we don't see it, we kind of, we'll pass it along, and then it really does.
Yeah.
But I don't like the excuse that you're not responding to them. I don't understand it. I don't like it, and it makes it difficult. We've got a couple of commissioners who are right now, I think they're a little touchy about it. You know what I'm talking about. So, and that's all I wanted to say. That I find the staff is very responsive when presented with something legitimately. I do. Okay, and I just want to make that clear. The only other thing I have to say is, it's how we start every year. We get this great big blowout storm and everything. I hope that our drivers, our 9 or so new drivers, are becoming veterans fast, and they're getting the feel of the roads and everything. Our insurance pool has been hit pretty hard in the last year, so we don't need to add to that if we can help it. And also just for our own sake, for their sake too.
I gave you the one. I can't remember who it was. It's okay, but it was a bunker. It was Holiday Hills. First time he ever plowed.
Oh, rough road.
So he's in Holiday Hills, and he went through there. I got an email today from somebody. He said, I don't know who this new person is. I didn't get his name, but he's the best driver in a long
He
time.
didn't know how to be bad.
And he said he specifically stopped and talked to him to figure out what was going on in an area to make sure that he wasn't
That's great.
doing something that he shouldn't be. And so the guy is just thrilled because he said, now it's like exactly this way. He understands what my concern was.
Oh.
So, I mean, you'd be surprised how many positives we
All right,
do.
good. Well, I don't want to draw this out too much. I just wanted to say, good job. We do have clear roads. It takes a lot. We got a lot of snow, and it's messy and nasty. Good job. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I really, I hope that you all have plenty to do and family to visit with and all that. This is one of my favorite holidays, and it's not just because I can eat like there's no tomorrow, but that is part of it.
Mine also. This one here is just neighbor family, and it's
No present.
Well,
And-
see,
and exactly.
it's the whole idea of gratitude.
It is.
We are blessed where we live. We are blessed to have what we have. And there are worse places to be in the world and even in our state. So God bless you all.
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. All right, thank you.